You're listening to In Sickness, a podcast about caregiving with Allison Breininger and Justin Bima.
Good morning.
Good morning, Allison. I heard you had some big news this week.
I mean, just a little bit of big news. I quit my job.
You quit your job?
I quit my job. If you could see me, I've been doing the I quit my job dance for a number of weeks now. My family is tired of it, but I can't help myself. Yes, I have been at my current job for 11 years as a director of an education program and really, really love it. But since I started Negative Space 3 years ago, it's kind of all I can think about.
You only started Negative Space 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow. Somehow it seems like longer.
Oh, thank you. That feels good because sometimes I'm like, 3 years, Breininger. What took you so long?
Huh.
But that's a good perspective. Thank you for that. Yes, I think it was 3 years ago. So yeah, ever since I started that and started this podcast and the boxes and all the things, like it's all I want to do. And so I really love my job, and it just felt like every minute I had to spend on that was a minute I couldn't spend on this stuff.
Right.
And so finally worked out the numbers and made a lot of spreadsheets and studied the spreadsheets and figured out that we were able to take the leap. And so last Tuesday was my last day at my job. And now I am just here to do Negative Space. I'm not saying I'm like going to do Negative Space full time because I really don't want to do anything full time.
Right.
Because I am also a caregiver and a parent, and that's a lot too. And so, but I'm going to be able to spend way more time and energy on things like this podcast and writing and speaking and supporting nonprofits with building caregiver supports into what they do and things I haven't even thought of yet. So I feel pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
pretty
you.
Big and exciting news. And yeah, really proud of you for going after it like that.
Thank you. And I want to say too to listeners, like when we, when you and I sit here and we just talk and we have a great time just talking to each other and then we put it out in the world and we're like, I mean, maybe somebody will listen. That'd be cool. But when we get these messages from people about the impact this is having, I mean, it's stuff like that. It's those messages or that I get about my writing or about the boxes that I was like, this is a thing. Like if I could spend more of my time and energy being able to impact people like you and like me who are it's so much of the negative space, like that's what I want to do. So I just want to thank anybody who's listening who's ever reached out to tell us the impact that this has had, because those things helped me fuel this decision. And yeah, I feel really, really grateful and really excited, and also excited to spend more time on this podcast, like I said. And now we just sort of put it out there and are like, I hope people listen, but maybe now I can do some more to help get even get the podcast into more people's ears. So yeah, I'm riding high a little bit. It's still
for sure. No, you should
still
be
new, but I'm very excited. A lot of dancing over here, much to my teenagers' chagrin. But another super cool thing that happened this week too is that I got added to Kate Bowler, who I feel like we quote her a lot on this podcast because she's the best. Kate Bowler is an author and a podcaster. Her podcast is next to this one, my favorite podcast ever. It's called Everything Happens.
Right.
And she's amazing. And she has a new book coming out called No Cure for Being Human. And I was added to her book launch team.
Oh, wow.
I know. So I just got today an early copy of the book, and I'm so excited to read it. But for people with chronic illness and people going through hard things, and she's one of the few people out there who actually talks about caregivers and talks to caregivers. Oh, it's so good. So anyway, I haven't read the book yet, but I highly recommend anything by Kate Bowler because she's just like a truth teller. So that's another fun thing that just happened that I get to do. So I'll have to let you know next time how the book is. Yeah. Yeah. You also had a big week. You went on your trip.
I did. So
tell me.
I went along to my family's camping trip for a few days, which was, as we've kind of talked about, was a big deal and something I was fairly anxious about leading up to for a variety of reasons. But yeah, I left. Well, it was going to be on the east side of the mountains here, which it was going to be 4-ish hours of a drive.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And then we had some wildfires that closed the highway to there. So it was going to be another hour and a half tacked onto that.
Oof.
And then the fires were getting worse and the air quality where we were going was not good. And so the week before, we were able to find some campsites on this side of the mountains, like an hour and 15 minutes away,
Oh, nice.
which ended up working out really great.
Because you were worried, you were like 4.5 hours is kind of a hike, right? Like,
right. It's a longer distance. And even though like the likelihood of me needing to leave early or something is low,
right.
just the psychological
Totally.
of feeling like I'm so much closer if
Yes.
something were to happen.
Yes.
And, you know, all of that less driving time meant, you know, what is like an extra 10 hours that I could spend with family instead of in the car.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you had sent me a message a few days before you left, and you said that Sarah wasn't feeling well, and you said something like, I hope I can still go.
Mhm.
So like, what was that like? Like, how did you make those decisions about like, okay, she's not feeling well. Should I go? Should I not go? Like, what was that part like?
Yeah. So, yeah, in the days before, her migraine was getting really bad. And like 2 days before I was supposed to go, it was like really, really bad. And it was very much I don't know if this is going to happen. Yeah, for sure kind of feeling. And I think, you know, talking to her after the fact, for some of it was, you know, she was very anxious as well about me being gone and how that was going to go. And that was, I fueled some of that. But
I'm sure. Yeah.
thankfully, the day before it kind of got better or improved enough. And we kind of talked about it. And because I was going to be so close, you know, I would go with the option that if things got bad, I was always able to, you know, come home and stuff. But thankfully she did fine. Her headache improved. She was feeling well enough that she was like, yeah, you go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that worked out pretty good.
How do you make that decision? Or like, let's say it would have stayed, like what stayed bad, you know, like how between the two of you, like what would that have looked like to make the decision about if you stay or if you go?
I don't know exactly. I mean, it would just be gauged on how, you know, if she's bad to the point where she basically can't get out of bed and like needs help with, you know, almost everything, that would feel like, okay, I need to stay back. And I think were I going further away, it would have been something we maybe would have had to think about more, or it would have been a harder decision to make. I think the distance made it a lot easier to kind of like, we can see how the first day goes kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think going, you know, that first day, I think there was still a fair bit of anxiety for my end as far as
the first day you were gone.
The first day I was gone, as far as, you know, how is this going to go for the next, you know, 2 days? And talking to Sarah like that evening, and then like the next day, she was doing good, reassuring me that without me being there somehow, you know, not somehow, but like obviously everything is happening okay.
Right.
You know, everything that
Somehow,
I do that feels like I need to kind of have my hands on everything and be kind of have that control. Like without me there, that still everything, the wheels keep turning. And so in a way that I was not expecting, it was a real like disconnect from the like stress and anxiety of, I don't know, just like day-to-day life. And it really felt like a good like recharge kind of experience in a way that I was expecting a lot more, you know, anxiety the whole time about how things were going and all of that. And it was a very pleasant surprise, even to the point where there were certainly times where I felt like some guilt coming up for how well I felt like I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what
Interesting.
I mean?
Yes.
Like I shouldn't be as relaxed and like my mind, you know, not on caregiving and how things are going there. But thinking about it afterwards, it was kind of like I think I was kind of like compartmentalizing a little bit. It felt kind of like back when I was going to work in the office, and how like when I'm there, I'm there.
Yep.
And like I can't do anything caregiving wise for Sarah at home. So like I don't need that on my mind there. And so it kind of did feel like that kind of like break and disconnect from it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose also, I mean, it helps that you knew she was in good hands, right? She was there with her parents.
Yep.
So it's not like you like left her high and dry.
Right. And, you know, we went through everything she needed, you know, if she needed more help with her infusions, kind of how to help with that some. And like it felt like we had good plans in place for everything. And and it just took me stepping back to know that things can still go okay. And, you know, it's been a long time since I've done that. And so whenever the previous time was like that, memory was faded to the point where it's kind of like I had to relearn that again.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah. Relearn that things can be okay without you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
That I don't need to be the one doing everything, or I don't even,
Right.
which was a real kind of like freeing kind of experience.
I wonder too, I kind of think like last time I told that story about how a couple of years ago I went off to Boston and Sean went off to Indiana, and people were like, how do you feel about that? And I was kind of like, I'm in Boston. Like, it's kind of like not it, like
right.
If something goes down, it's not like, I'm just down the street. Like I can't. And there was something, like you said, compartmentalizing about that, about like somebody else will have to do it. Like I literally cannot take him to the ER because I am in Boston, And so I think, it's just interesting that we have to have that much space.
Right.
We're like on a day to day, you're right there with these two other humans. You know what I mean? But it's like, well, I'm here, so I may as well.
Right.
But when you have that space, you're like, not it. Can't.
Yeah.
And not it. Like, nah, I don't mean to say that in a like, I don't want to do that. Right. But just in a moment of like, it's somebody else's turn right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this moment, and I can say this because this won't air for a couple of days, but Sean is on a trip without me.
Oh, wow.
And so he and his brother flew to Indiana yesterday to surprise their parents because they're having a 50th anniversary celebration tonight. And so they're surprising them. And so in a way, I have sort of the backward situation of sending him off, but sending him off with his brother. And then last time I told you about that time when he was in Indiana, got sick, ended up being hospitalized. And it was his brother who was there and ended up being, the caregiver in that moment. And so, so in a way, it's similar in that I'm kind of like, well, not it. Like, I'm not there, except that it's them that went off instead of me. And so what it has looked like for me in this last week of sort of preparing is thinking about things like I had to have the medical supplies shipped to a hotel in Indiana because he's flying and there's like liquids, you know what I mean? And I had to like all of these, like we had to get like prescriptions early and all, all this stuff.
Yep.
But then when his brother came to pick him up, I was like, okay, here's the deal. You're walking through the airport. You got to walk real slow and maybe get a wheelchair or maybe get one of those carts and then make sure he has the mask on and then you know what I mean? And it's just like all the things that I carry around in my brain that I was just sort of like handing off to him.
Yeah.
And now that he's gone, I mean, certainly I'm curious and concerned, like want to make sure that he's doing well, but also there is a piece of like it's Adam's turn,
right?
Like it's somebody else's got the reins right now because I literally cannot.
Yeah.
And they're right. There is something freeing about that. I was telling somebody that last night that Sean was gone and she was like, how often are you not on as a caregiver? And I was like, never.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. Like, because even when I work at home.
Yeah.
So even to wake up this morning and be like, oh, Sean's not here. Very, very sad. And also like, that's a whole pile of other things that I'm not like in charge of today.
Yeah.
And 1,000% I miss my husband. Yes. And wish he was here.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like, that like this whole, like a whole giant chunk of my to-do list is just like crossed off.
Yeah.
Because Adam's doing it, I hope.
Right. I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he is. He is. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think if somebody asked you that question? How often are you not on duty as a caregiver? What would your answer be?
I mean, if it was I don't know, a year and a half ago, it would have been, when I'm at work.
Right.
For the most part. And now like you, it's virtually never.
Yeah.
And so, I guess I hadn't thought about that, given that I've been, with the pandemic, being home, working from home, basically with Sarah 24/7 for the past year and a half, whatever it's been.
Yep.
Whereas prior to that, I was, had that kind of other space that I existed in by going into work.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if like how much more I needed this.
Oh yeah. The trip,
or how much more of a like stark difference it kind of felt like of that, like, wow, everything does go okay without me there. And this feels very different to be not on all
Yes.
day, and to kind of be able to just kind of like sit and be.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
granted, sit and be with, nieces crawling all over me because they're so excited their uncle's
Right.
there, which
Of
is
course. Bucket
absolute
filler.
heaven. Yeah.
Yes. But you weren't in charge of them, right? Like,
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. You just got the good parts and you didn't have to worry if they like had their shoes on or went to bed or
Yep.
whatever, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, that's the best.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we're talking about these trips because I feel like we have so Sean's on a trip. You just got to go on a trip. We still haven't talked about the trip that Sean and Maya and I went on.
Yeah.
The epic Midwest adventure. But also a couple weeks ago, I got the opportunity to go like on a little 24-hour like getaway.
Oh, wow.
I have two college friends
Mm-hmm.
who like got a cabin like an hour and a half from here.
Okay.
And where they were going to be there all week. And they were like, if you can sneak away, we think you should.
Right.
And so I just sort of like kept kind of tiptoeing through the week, like, how are things going? And then at one point I was like, I think I can do it.
Making a break for it.
I'm making a break for it. So I went for 25 hours.
Yeah.
And it was only like an hour and 10 minutes away. So it was like this perfect distance. So sort of like you, I was like, I can zip home at any point if I need to. But kind of like something that you just said that really connected with me was the relaxation of not being on. Because I was with these two other adults, right?
Right.
They had booked the cabin. They had all the food. Like I didn't have to worry about them or take care of them. And I was just like only having to take care of myself.
Right.
As opposed to like the husband and the teenager and the animals and all the things. I was like, I am the only person I have to worry about right now.
Right.
I only have to pack a bag for me.
Yeah.
What? And what I think a huge lesson I learned about that was that I don't need, I mean, it'd be great, but I don't need like giant vacations. Like I kid you not, by 8 p.m., I got there at like noon.
Right.
By 8 p.m. that first night, I felt like a totally different person.
Yeah.
After just 8 hours. So I think it really helped me to realize like I should try to do these little like sneakaways more often because 24 hours can be really restorative.
Right.
And not that I'm going to not go on long vacations, but I think that sometimes you wait until like the long thing can happen and all the big stuff. And it doesn't have to be that fancy.
Right. And there's so much, I don't know about you, but the planning and all of that going into something longer that is work. And I don't know, somehow the fact that there's more work to do to plan for it feeds into anxiety. And
for sure.
Yeah. If it's just pack a quick bag, get away for a day. Like, yeah, that does sound like a great idea.
It was. Don't you sometimes wish, I often wish that you and I live close together so we could be like, I mean, we always say that, like, let's go have a beer. Right. Let's go out. Let's go sneak away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the halfway point between us is, I don't even know.
I don't know, somewhere in South Dakota.
I was going to say South Dakota, maybe. No, North Dakota, probably. Anyway, just that piece, like when you, like, I feel like, because I have the gift of being able to see your face while we're talking on the video here, like just even how relaxed you looked when you just described what it felt like to not be on.
Yeah.
Was like a different face. And that's how I felt too. Like, just like, it's just me. I only have to take care of me. And I could say to either of these people, because I love them very much, at any moment, like, I'm just going to go walk away. I'm going to go lie down. And they would be like, cool.
Yeah.
You know? But how can we make sure that it doesn't take us years to do that again? You know?
Yeah, it's tricky. I know, like, for me, part of what I kind of went into this as is like to show myself that this kind of thing is possible, I guess. And to kind of build, like I've said, build that memory that like, yes, things functioned fine, without me. And that doesn't mean I'm going to go drive around the country for 2 months, obviously.
Right.
But to plan some other like getaways.
Yeah.
And so I've got in October, I've got a little like day and a half thing planned to get away.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Good.
Something that's just me. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I feel much less stressed about it after this vacation than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me this, because this vacation was a family vacation. If Sarah was, in a different space, this is something she would have come along with in a different world, right?
Yeah.
Your October thing sounds like something you're planning for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
How does it feel to be able to say that to her? Like, I'm planning something, it's just for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because it's a little different than like a family thing and they all invited you.
Right.
And I think for the family thing too, didn't Sarah and her parents sort of like orchestrate it so that you could go?
Yeah. They were
right?
like, yeah, you need to, we'll take care of things. You should go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of how that feels different talking to Sarah about that. I think she has been more aware of the like necessity or need for me to like get away periodically and have some space or time
Yep.
like this. But also like for both of us, there's anxiety there because we just are used to me being, there to care for her, and it's a different dynamic.
Yep.
Without me there. But I think in this case, it's not, I'll be away for one night.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing. Yeah. I think she's excited for me that I can do something that's just for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know the last time I was able to like say that I was planning and doing something like that, other than like, I don't know, getting away for a couple hours on a weekend morning. But yeah.
Right. Well, and I suppose in any marriage, right, that could feel to say to your spouse, like, I'm going to plan a trip without you.
Right.
Right. This is a little different because it's not like you could be like, this time I'm going, next time you get to go. Right. Because she maybe doesn't have that option of traveling. But I suppose in any marriage there, are those times when you want to say, I'm going to go do a thing for me. Yeah. I mean, even for me going on this girls' weekend or 24 hours, Sean's like, well, I'm kind of jealous because these are college friends. So he also knows them.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, bye. I know you love them too, but this is my time. This is for me. Maybe another time you could go, but not this time. It's my turn. Yeah. So the other piece, the other version of vacation that we've had is that, the three of us went on vacation together.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that went.
So, I mean, I think I talked a little bit last time about like just the travel, it was a lot of traveling and it was a lot of people.
Right.
After a lot of time without people.
Yeah.
And I think I also mentioned the piece about like he does not now have the stamina to drive, which made that a lot harder. I think the other thing that was tricky is that he is in a stage of sleeping a lot, like really low energy, and that kind of comes and goes. And so like he, will be up for a little bit, an hour or two in the morning, and then he'll be back in bed for a couple of hours, and then he'll be up, and then he'll be down, and so I think it wasn't so much that there was anything like acute happening that felt like, oh man, do you have a fever? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like that wasn't so much the hard piece. It was more, I think it was more seeing him through other people's eyes.
Okay.
Like, so here at home, that happens every day.
Right.
But nobody sees it. Right. I'm like, oh, dad's awake. Oh, now dad's asleep, to Maya. And that's just the way things roll.
Yeah.
But to see it through other people's eyes felt different because clearly nobody else, I mean, some people are taking like a vacation nap, but nobody else was sleeping as much as Sean did. And so I don't know, it just felt a little different to be like, oh wow, watching them see that this is the way our life is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And certainly, I mean, everybody was like fine with it, but you just also sort of see people are like, Sean's dressed. Okay.
Well, it's like you take what is your normal day to day and you kind of drop that into a different setting, and it kind of brings light to kind of how different your life is than, the people you're with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And also I think when we see, in both cases, we are with some relatives who live locally. So some of those people we see more often, and, they'll see him like at a barbecue or at a thing where he's like rallying.
Yep.
And he's there and he's like using all his energy for the day to be at this event. And that's the part they see.
Yep.
And they don't see all the before and the after. And so when you're with people living together for a number of days, you can see the like, oh, what does it take beforehand and afterwards?
Yeah, which I think is a good thing for people to see because I think that, that's something that we've faced is that, when people don't see Sarah with the crashes after, an event, they just see, her rallying at, and not the like aftermath of that and not the like days in bed before and after, things like that.
Right.
And so I think yeah, it's good for, and I don't know the best way to like make it more visible, like just on day in and day out. But yeah, I think it's good to share that picture of what, life really looks like.
I remember I posted something a couple years ago, but it was like some relatives and friends were in town. And so I had a picture of like Sean and his brother and their best friend from their childhood, like boop, like in a thing. And then I had a picture like 45 minutes later of him like totally crashed out. And I just said, the left side is what people see. They don't see the right side. And it's not a guilt thing. Like, it's not like I want people to like not invite us to things.
Right.
It's just like when you think about the picture of Sean, it's like negative space, right? Like you only see the like perky part and you don't see like all the energy it took him to be at that dinner.
Right.
Yep. I mean, even, he's at this in Indiana. And so he's like, okay, on Saturday, we're going to go out for breakfast with our nephew. And I was like, all right, so you're going to fly on Friday night. You can go out for breakfast on Saturday morning. And then there's going to be this party Saturday night. Like that. I don't know if your bucket will have anything in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this trip is it felt, because, we wisely got trip insurance. And so even up to yesterday, I was like, you don't have to go. Nobody even knows you're coming, But I mean, the nice thing is it doesn't feel at this moment like an infection, like a fever, like a thing that might like ramp up and get worse.
Right.
It's more just like he's going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
Totally exhausted. Like maybe in the middle of it and definitely after it,
Yeah. How does that feel for you knowing that he's going to come back and be just exhausted?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think again, like exhaustion feels like we can handle that.
Yeah.
Like we're used to hunkering down. It's if he needs to be in bed for a couple of days.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. It's more about if it turns into like, this is like an infection, like a thing that is going to be a sickness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it was definitely a moment of, and I would assume you guys have to make these decisions all the time too. Like this is a big deal in his family and everybody else is going to be there. And you do like a YOLO sort of like you only live once thing and like go and like, I'm going to be so tired and this is going to be really hard. And but I'm going to go because life is short.
Yep.
Or are you like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, those are frequent, things we have to think about and make decisions around, and they're never easy.
Right. I mean, I had the same sort of debate with myself about that like 25-hour thing. I was like, well, it's just easier if I stay home. Da, da, da. And then when I was in it, I was like, Allison, oh my gosh, can you imagine if you hadn't done this? Like, easier, yes, but why? Like this was so easy and so refreshing.
Right. We need to remind each other that when we think, oh, it'd just be easier for us not to do things like that, no, it's.
Yeah. Right. It's worth it.
It's worth it.
Right. Yes, we do. For sure. You said something about aftermath a minute ago. I'm wondering like, what was the aftermath like for you of coming home from your trip? Both of like, how did you feel? How did Sarah feel? How did her parents exhausted? Like how did that all go down when you got back?
Yeah. Well, I came back on, what was it, Tuesday evening, and then I had taken Wednesday off from work.
Smart.
Yes.
Man.
So I didn't have to like jump right into, work.
You know what? Vacation hangover is real.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you did that.
So yeah, I came home and I kind of just, it was, I don't know, 9:30 or something when I came home. So it was fairly late, but it just kind of came home, brought in my stuff, and the next day slowly kind of unpacked. And Sarah was pretty fatigued from me being gone and just kind of the additional stuff she was doing. And I think just mentally it's different.
Yeah.
She did say that having Mosey made a huge difference.
Oh, Mosey the dog.
Mosey certainly did her part while I was gone.
Good.
Which was
good
great.
Girl, Mosey.
But yeah, I feel like I expected, I think, more of a like that 0 to 60 kind of feeling coming back.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was probably a combination of like I was feeling pretty like good and relaxed coming back from vacation.
Yeah.
And I had that day off. And so I didn't have to like rush into anything. But it felt like a nice easing back into. And it wasn't until I think Friday I started like feeling like there were like things were getting busy again, but not like not like really busy, but you feel like, okay, being more aware of all of these things I have to do. Like I have to go run this errand on Saturday, and I have to make dinner tonight, and all of these things that, I kind of just didn't have to think about while I was on vacation. And it was an interesting moment of like, normally like that kind of happens and it can be a real quick spiral, and like anxiety kicks in and it's like feeling overwhelmed very quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I had been kind of like off for, that period of time, but like I felt that rising up of that like anxiety or busyness like early enough that I was like, you know what? I don't have to like engage that. And it like, it didn't go away necessarily, but it's just like, okay, that's there.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that, but I also don't have to feed into it.
Hey,
like,
well done.
Right? It was,
oof.
Yeah, proud moment.
That's some guru level stuff right there. Like, hey, anxiety, I see you. You don't own me.
And, I think later in the day, anxiety was back stronger, but like to know that I could have that moment
though. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Something I'm trying to figure out related to that is like, now I have 40 extra hours in my life.
Right.
In my week.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was so waiting for my work email to like shut down because all my calendars are shared. And so like my home and my negative space and my work calendar were always like piled on top of each other.
Right.
So I was so excited for all the work meetings to like disappear, and they did. And then I was like, why is all this stuff still on my calendar? Like I was expecting my calendar to just be like empty.
Right.
No, it's because I still do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so it's making me realize like, oh, I used to do all these things and work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm so tired. But also I'm trying to figure out, how do I not just say like, well, now I have more free time. So therefore I should do even more caregiving, or I should do even less delegating.
Right.
I'm already feeling that like if I ask for help on my like Care app or whatever, that people might be like, why? You just quit your job. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
And I want to be really careful about that, because I feel like I could very quickly fill those 40 hours right back up. And that is not the point.
No. And you said something earlier this week when you were, I think, posting about what you had done with, stepping down from your job, and you're going to do the negative space thing, and that you're intentionally like taking it slow and focusing on some rest initially and all of that. And I think that's just like so smart and wise to not jump from one busy life right into another. Because I don't think I'm assuming that that's not the point, to become to just have another busy life, but you're doing another thing for 40 hours a week.
Totally. Exactly. And that's what I think is like there's a lot of like partnerships and things that I'm excited to do. And also I'm like, I don't want to call that person yet, because I just feel like that is going to turn into an opportunity, which feels great.
Yeah.
And I am tired, and so I am trying to find the balance between like, how can I spend some time? I just want to spend some like quiet time, like dreaming too, and not just like jumping at the first thing that comes, but really spending time being like, how do I want to spend this time? And I'm just even thinking about like things like exercising, or things that I just before were like, I don't have time for any of this, to be like, what are the things in my life that I was like, oh, I can't do that now maybe I do want to do, I find that mindset is quite baffling to most people, because everybody else is in the rat race. Right. And so they're like, well, wait, what are you going to go do? What are you going to do? How are you going to, what's your day going to look like? I'm like, not like yours anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? Like I just, and I feel a little guilty saying that, because but I did that for a lot of years, and I'm excited to not do that. So I think because that's the way the world works, I'm going to have to work real hard to be intentional, to not just like jump right back in, and to still say like, well, let's like, I can still delegate, and I can still ask people for help, and I can still whatever. And
because you still have a full-time job as a caregiver.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When you came home from your trip, like you sent me this amazing picture of you and your niece. So sweet and cute. Oh my gosh. Because you were with your nieces and your nephew, right?
Yeah.
Was it like when you were telling Sarah because we've talked before about like the guilt, because of course she, like your nieces and your nephew are like everything to her.
Yeah.
Right. So when you were like rehashing stories about how things went and all of that, was that hard? Were you trying to be like, well, I mean, it wasn't like actually that fun. You know what I mean? Or like, how did that feel?
It felt fine. It felt good. I mean, I was sharing, and everyone, the family text feed, sharing a lot of pictures, so that she could see what was going on the whole time. And it was, she really enjoyed in a, as much as she could feel a part of things via that, seeing things. And, so I think that it was good because through me, she was able to kind of virtually spend or see, a couple days in the lives of the nieces and nephew and all of that. And so, I think it was overall good. And, they asked about her and, all of that and how's she doing. And so it was good to kind of that they're thinking of her as well. And it's not, they know that she's not there and that, Yeah.
Yeah. And then how about the in-laws? Were they like, when you came back, were they like, how do you do this? We're exhausted? Or like, how did that,
No,
how did that go?
It's because it's, we all live together. I think it wasn't a like, how do you do, like they see what's all involved day in and day out and are aware of all of that. It was, like talking to Sarah's mom, like beforehand and, some text during it and after is like very much, we've got this, I can handle this, enjoy your time off kind of thing. And so it was really just from all angles, just a really like affirming like, experience.
What a gift. I mean, that text right there. We've got this.
Yeah.
We can handle this. Go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Can somebody just say that to us like once a week? Something.
Yeah.
I mean, those are 3 amazing sentences. And I'm so glad that they said that to you so that you could really step away and enjoy in that way.
Yeah. And it's like knowing that and getting that kind of like, it's not quite permission, but whatever to like, this is under control.
Yeah.
We're, you're relieved of your responsibilities for right now. Like, it's powerful.
It is. It is. Wow. I'm so glad you have those in-laws in your life. Yeah. I, on the other hand, when I was gone for 25 hours, my family was like, how do you do all the things? I was like, friends, it was 25 hours and you were probably sleeping for a lot of those. So, but they were so funny. Like they texted me, we're going to a movie. And then they texted back, oh no, we're not. You have the car. They're like, I was like, Mom, we didn't even realize we didn't have a car until we went to the car and then realized it wasn't there because you have it. She's like, you just know all the things and you remember all the things.
Right.
She's like, one night, Mom, I don't know if we even ate dinner. And I was like, what do you even, what? So, I mean, none of it was like life threatening.
Yeah.
Although like usually I hook Sean up to like his hydration pump every night.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it. And I was like, Maya knows how to do it. Just ask her. He's like, yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it was, it was more amusing. It wasn't anything like terrible. But I mean, even for that 5 hours, I made this like big list that it was on the refrigerator door. Right. That was like, Maya, you have this thing, and then you have this thing, and then you have this thing. And she's like, I never realized how many things you remind me of. And she's a pretty like put together 14-year-old.
Yeah.
But still, they were just like, I'm so glad you're home. Like, really? I was hardly gone, guys. So, I mean, it was nice that they appreciated me. And they were like, it's not the same around here without you. You just hold it all together. So I think part of it is that like the mental load.
So how was that for you coming back from that 24 hours to that? Was that?
I mean, I think it wasn't hard. Like, it wasn't like they left everything like a disaster, you know what I mean? But it was interesting, like how much they like missed me and realized in that tiny amount of time, like how much I do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that was lovely that especially the teenager wasn't just like, wait, you were gone? I didn't even know. That they were like, you were just gone for so long. Which I try not to like have any, and it wasn't a guilt thing. It was more of like a sweet thing. But but I also know that then they did fun things. Like they found a way to get to the movie. So they like went to a movie together and they did the things that like that they probably wouldn't have done if I had been here, just the two of them. And so I think that that's good too, to like take myself out of the formula so that they can have those moments together,
For sure.
So yeah, I think I think it felt like, oh yeah, like you said, because my mom was like, this is like a nice little test. Like can they handle it?
Mm-hmm.
And they could for 25 hours.
Well, that's good.
Next time, 36.
There you go.
Oh, well, a year ago,
mm-hmm.
Or even like 6 months ago when we were so hunkered down, I don't know that we would have been able to even picture 4 trips between the two of us.
No.
And so that's something to celebrate, right?
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
we even have the option to be out and about and doing things, although things are looking a little sketchy again, but we don't need to go there.
No.
And like, I'm just super proud of us that we
did it.
4 different, really super different trips that we did and survived. And I guess one is in progress. So we'll see if John survives this one that he's currently in, but we'll just hope for the best.
Yes.
So 4 trips that like everyone survived, that 2 of them were like us getting away and just like delegating to other people. And like everyone survived to tell the tale, and we both felt better afterwards. And so like, cheers to us.
Yeah, for sure.
And to our teams, to your in-laws and to my mom and to all the people who like stepped up to make those things happen.
Yeah.
To Sean's brother, like to them for that. And then also I want to get a tattoo of what your mother-in-law said about like, we'll be fine. We have it covered. Go relax.
Yeah.
What? Man, somebody can say that to me. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to just stay in my house for a little while now.
Yeah, I think so.
The traveling was fun. And also, it's kind of a lot. So I think I'm ready to stay home for at least a little bit. But it's fun that you have a trip to look forward to in October.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Good. Well, thanks for sharing. I've been wondering how it went. And so it's good to hear the details.
Good to catch up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You too. All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to In Sickness. Find us online at insickness.care or on Instagram at insicknesspodcast. You can send your questions and comments to insicknesspodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or fellow caregiver, or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening, and take care.